Alright, let's just get right into it, because this is a conversation that matters. We're talking about vulnerability, that beautiful, terrifying, wholehearted space where we dare to be seen. But what happens when that space feels off? When you're sitting across from someone, maybe a partner, a friend, a family member, and they're sharing something deeply personal, yet a little alarm bell is going off somewhere in your gut. You find yourself wondering, is this real? Is this authentic connection? Or is it something else entirely? A performance, a strategy, a clever facade designed to look like the real thing, but lacking the soul of true, reciprocal human connection. We've all been in that moment of uncertainty, haven't we? That space where we're trying to decipher the signals, trying to understand if the emotional openness we're witnessing is a genuine invitation to connect, or if it's a form of manipulation, conscious or not. It's a profoundly confusing place to be because our hearts want to believe. We are wired for connection, after all. We yearn for that sense of being truly known and accepted. So when someone presents what looks like vulnerability, our instinct is to lean in, to offer empathy, to meet them in that space. But our intuition, that quiet, wise voice within, sometimes whispers a warning. This conversation, right here, right now, is about learning to honor that intuition. It's about giving ourselves permission to look closer, to ask the hard questions, and to get really clear on the difference between genuine, courage-fueled vulnerability and the many things that masquerade as it. This isn't about becoming cynical or building walls around our hearts. Quite the opposite. It's about becoming discerning, empowered guardians of our own emotional well-being. It's about cultivating the wisdom to invest our empathy and trust where it will be honored, nurtured, and returned in kind, building something strong and real. In this video, we're going to unpack the subtle and sometimes not so subtle red flags that can help you distinguish authentic connection from these emotional displays that can leave us feeling drained and confused. We're going to give you the language and the framework to understand what you're feeling and to see these patterns more clearly, because knowing what true vulnerability looks and feels like is the first, most crucial step in building the kind of deeply meaningful, wholehearted relationships we all deserve. This is about choosing courage over comfort and what's right over what's easy. Let's dig in. Oversharing can look like vulnerability, but it's not the same. True vulnerability is intentional, shared with those who've earned our trust, and builds connection. Oversharing is a flood of personal details, often without boundaries, leaving listeners overwhelmed or distant. Ask yourself, is this an invitation to connect or just a performance? Real vulnerability feels risky but generative. Oversharing is just noise. The difference? One builds a bridge, the other, a wall. Now let's move on to our next red flag, which can be incredibly tricky to spot because it cloaks itself in a virtue we all admire. Honesty. This is what I call the "I'm so honest" trap. It's when a person constantly needs to announce their own honesty. You'll hear phrases like, "I'm just a really honest person," or "I have to be honest, that's just who I am," or "I'm a brutally honest person, I just tell it like it is." They wear their honesty like a brand, a label they affix to themselves, often right before saying something critical, unkind, or lacking in empathy. Here's the thing about true, authentic honesty. It doesn't need a press release. It doesn't require a constant marketing campaign. People who are genuinely living and speaking from a place of integrated honesty don't need to keep telling you about it. Their actions, their consistency, and the respectful way they deliver difficult truths speak for themselves. Their honesty is a quality that is felt and experienced in the relationship, not a slogan that is constantly declared. It's a quiet, steady current, not a loud, crashing wave. When someone repeatedly emphasizes their own honesty, it's worth getting curious. Often this self-proclamation serves as a shield. It's a preemptive defense against any negative reaction you might have to what they're about to say. By branding themselves as just being honest, they are essentially saying, if you get upset by this, that's a you problem. You're just not strong enough to handle my truth. It's a way to abdicate responsibility for the impact of their words, placing the burden of the emotional fallout entirely on the listener. This isn't honesty. It's a justification for a lack of social grace, empathy, or self-control. It's using the concept of honesty as a weapon to say whatever one wants without having to consider the feelings or perspective of the other person. It shortcuts the difficult, vulnerable work of finding a way to speak your truth with kindness and respect. True honesty is about sharing your perspective while still holding space for the other person's humanity. It's not a free pass to be careless with people's hearts under the guise of keeping it real. Let's talk about that phrase, brutal honesty. I think it's one of the most misleading concepts out there. The person who prides themselves on being brutally honest is often focused only on the brutal part and has forgotten about the honesty part. Because real honesty, the kind that builds trust and connection, is never about brutality. It's about clarity, respect, and a commitment to the health of the relationship. It's about having the courage to say the hard thing, but also having the compassion to say it in a way that the other person can actually hear. Think about the intention. What is the goal of the communication? Is the goal to hurt, to prove a point, to win an argument, or to offload a criticism without any personal discomfort? That is the hallmark of brutal honesty. It serves the speaker, not the relationship. It's a way to feel powerful and righteous in the moment without doing the hard work of introspection or considering the impact. It's a monologue of judgment disguised as a dialogue of truth. It tears down, it does not build up. Wholehearted truth, on the other hand, comes from a place of care. The goal is to build understanding, to solve a problem, or to deepen the connection, even when the topic is difficult. It requires vulnerability from the speaker. It requires them to say, here is how I'm feeling, or here is my perspective, and I want to understand yours. It's delivered with kindness. It's timed appropriately. It's offered in a private setting, not used for public shaming. It's an invitation to a difficult but necessary conversation. So when someone prefaces a statement with, I'm about to be brutally honest, it's a red flag. It's a warning that they are likely prioritizing their need to be right over your need to be respected. They are choosing blunt force over compassionate communication. Real courage isn't about having no filter. It's about having the wisdom and strength to filter your thoughts through a lens of kindness and respect for the person you are speaking to. It's about choosing connection over cruelty every single time. One is a weapon, the other is a bridge. The final piece of this I'm so honest trap is the profound lack of self-reflection that often accompanies it. A person who constantly declares their honesty is often just sharing unfiltered, top-of-mind judgments and opinions without ever stopping to question them. They present their initial reactions as infallible truths without doing the deeper work of asking themselves, why do I feel this way? Is this belief true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? What is my part in this? What biases or past experiences are shaping my perspective right now? True honesty requires deep introspection. It requires us to get honest with ourselves first, before we can be truly honest with anyone else. It's about knowing our own triggers, our own fears, and our own patterns. It's about understanding the difference between a core value and a reactive opinion. This self-awareness is what allows us to communicate with integrity. Without it, honesty is just the act of projecting our own unexamined stuff onto other people and calling it truth. It's emotionally lazy, and it's the opposite of vulnerability. When someone is truly being vulnerable and honest, you can feel the self-reflection behind their words. There's a sense of humility. They might say something like, the story I'm telling myself is, or I'm realizing that this situation is triggering my fear of. They own their perspective as a perspective, not as the only truth. They are sharing their internal world with you, including their uncertainties and their questions. This is what creates safety and invites you to share your own perspective in return. So, listen for the nuance. Is this person sharing a rigid, unexamined judgment, or are they sharing a thoughtfully considered piece of their inner world? Are they presenting their opinion as objective fact, or are they owning it as their personal experience? The person trapped in the I'm so honest performance rarely shows this level of introspection. Their truth is a shield they use to keep others at a distance and to avoid looking in the mirror. True, vulnerable honesty is a light that is turned inward first, illuminating the self before it is ever shared with another. Sometimes vulnerability sounds like a breakthrough, deep confessions, promises for change. But then, nothing happens. The words fade, action never follows. It's an emotional echo chamber, insight without practice, intention without effort. Over time, this erodes trust. True connection needs more than talk. It needs follow-through, however imperfect. If someone's vulnerability never leads to action, you're left as an audience to a performance, waiting for a second act that never begins. Have you ever listened to someone pour out their heart, but felt invisible in the conversation? True vulnerability is a dialogue, a dance of give and take. When sharing becomes a one-way performance, it builds walls, not bridges. You become an audience, not a partner. Real connection is mutual, seeing and being seen, hearing and being heard. If your vulnerability is met with curiosity and care, that's connection. If not, you're left alone, even in someone else's spotlight. Healthy relationships are duets, not solos. Sometimes vulnerability is used as a shield to avoid responsibility or as a tool to manipulate. True vulnerability means owning our actions, not using our pain as an excuse. On the other hand, the absence of vulnerability, stonewalling, shuts down connection and leaves others feeling isolated. Real connection is built on honest, present-day actions, not empty promises or emotional walls. Protect yourself by trusting actions over words, and choose relationships grounded in mutual respect and accountability. Navigating the complex, often messy world of vulnerability in our relationships is some of the most important work we will ever do. It is absolutely essential for creating the kind of true intimacy and belonging that we are all wired for. By learning to distinguish authentic, courageous openness from its many imitations, from the monologue of oversharing to the shield of weaponized pain, you empower yourself. You learn to build connections that are truly unbreakable, because they are rooted not in performance or manipulation, but in the solid ground of trust, respect, and genuine mutual emotional engagement. This is where the magic happens. This is where we find our way back to ourselves and to each other. Are you ready to stop guessing and start building more authentic, more profound connections in your life? If this video brought you a moment of clarity, if it gave you language for something you've been feeling but couldn't name, please do us a favor and like it. And if you know someone who is navigating these tricky waters who could benefit from these insights, please share it with them. We don't have to do this work alone. The more of us who are having these conversations, the more we can create a culture of genuine, wholehearted connection for everyone. That's how we start a revolution of the heart. For more guides on emotional intelligence, relationship health, and the courage to live a wholehearted life, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We are committed to being a resource for you on this journey. And don't forget to follow our page on, Instagram or whatever platform you prefer. We share daily insights, aha moments, and community conversations there. We're here to help you foster the kind of genuinely meaningful relationships that make life brave and beautiful. Thank you for showing up today. Be brave and be kind to your heart. Remember, you are worthy of connection that feels safe, seen, and celebrated. You are worthy of a love that doesn't require you to shrink, to perform, or to be silent. You are worthy of relationships that are built on the radical, world-changing power of true vulnerability. It's hard work, but it's the best work. And you don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to do it bravely. Go out there and keep building those bridges. We're cheering for you every step of the way. Thank you so much for being a part of this community.